I got to mute everything. Tom, I already know it. Let's see. Hold on. Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody? Now let's see. I'm still wild. You talk, Tom.
Yeah, that's weird. Do I have an echo as well? Or is it no echo? Okay, cool. So my side's working for once after all the times we've had problems with audio echoes and crazy stuff. Do you have your speakers on your computer turned off?
You
Sometimes
sound
that's
really good today. I think I
awesome.
got them off. Yeah.
If
Maybe I could just sound like God today. All of you out there, do your best, be good, and always be kind. Okay. Hey, Tom,
yeah,
I'll
just
try to fix it.
yeah, make sure you get your speakers on your computer muted because sometimes that's the issue that we run into. If you have your speakers going, then it's picking you up on your mic uh, on Clubhouse and creating a little loop. So, and I've got you muted on my end, so we don't have that issue on my end. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it happens. Even the best of us. Although, like I said, at least this week, I, as the professional, I'm supposed to be the pro in the room, and at least mine is sorted out and sounds good according to you. I don't know. Give it another run, Tom. Let's see if you got an echo. The only way to figure it out is to test it, right? So
Okay, let's do this again. I don't hear Tom through my computer. I don't sound like God anymore. If that's what God sounded like. Um,
It's not.
no, it's not. Yeah, wouldn't that be something if God had a hoarse voice like me, Brian, and had a Pittsburgh accent?
if God ate at Primanti Brothers and it was a Pittsburgher.
Absolutely. So I have to say, we were talking about Creative Con yesterday, and we're working on a schedule for like what it would look like. Okay, Brian's gonna do Meet the Sharks. Julie's gonna be on this panel. Tom's gonna talk about Legendarian. Second day, we're thinking about starting off with not the smartest guys, but we'll do it like a panel. Love to have you guys be around. We're gonna try to figure that out. But I said, Julie, we're going to talk about iced coffee, while we're going to talk about media and publishing books and things like that. We are going to talk about, like today, my wife went and bought me, she just got back from Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm holding the best thing here, my favorite thing, the Boston cream. The Boston cream is the greatest of donuts, I feel. Look, it's got this good looking cream inside of it. I don't know what that stuff actually is, but it's like just perfection in a donut. So we will talk about all those other things. But go on, Tom.
I do like a Boston cream. I particularly liked a Boston cream. I think when I was like maybe in my early teens was like a sweet spot for me for like really liking a Boston cream. I think nowadays because tastes change, right, over time. I think for me now, the kind of like ideal donut is a glazed old fashioned, right? That's really fried well, so you get like a little bit of crispiness on the bottom of it, right? And you get the sugary glaze, and you get that kind of sweet, interior. It's either that, or my other favorite is just a straightforward glazed donut from Krispy Kreme, like right off the line, right? Because Krispy Kreme makes their donuts fresh. So like a simple glazed donut right off the line at Krispy Kreme, like it literally, the only problem with them is they're gone too fast because they like melt as you eat them. You don't even have to really chew. Like it's like cotton candy, right? Like cotton candy, it gets in your mouth and you're like, oh, this is so good. And then like there's nothing to chew, right? Because it's cotton candy. It just is gone. It melts. same kind of thing with a Krispy Kreme donut, right? Like fresh off the line. It's amazing. And you get it in, like, you take a bite out of it and it's warm and it's sweet and and you get the flavor of the dough, right? Like it's delicious. And then it just melts. It's gone. Like it's like you can't even chew on it, right? It's just gone so fast. But I also have, I will admittedly say, I do have some weird, I maybe I don't know, some weird tastes in food, right? Like I like just about everything. The only things I don't eat are walnuts and pecans because I'm allergic to them. So which I think is fair, right? I think that's a good reason to not eat something. But pretty much everything else is kind of fair game. I'll at least give it a try. I don't like everything I've ever had to eat, but like one of my go-to breakfasts has now become, this is going to sound really weird, people are going to think this is weird, is cinnamon raisin bread toast with cottage cheese and salt and pepper on top. And Dom is making a hilarious face right now, but I had to say it out loud. I haven't like talked about it, like said it anywhere publicly that that's like a go-to breakfast for me, but like it's a go-to breakfast. It's a great meal. It's got carbs, right? It's got protein. It's got a little bit of fat. From a macronutrient perspective, it's pretty well rounded, right? Like, and the salt and the pepper is great for like kind of bringing out the flavor of the cottage cheese. The pepper works really well with sweet things. If you've never tried it, like trust me, it does. Like black pepper actually works really well with sweet things. So it sounds crazy. I know, I get it, but I'm telling you, it's delicious. And it's not why Americans are fat, Julie. I have to eat breakfast.
All right.
I was responding to Tristan's remark.
Oh, okay. I didn't read Tristan's remark. But yeah.
Give me a good apple fritter.
An apple fritter.
Give me a good apple fritter.
Where do they sell an apple fritter?
I love a good apple fritter too. I'm with you, Brian, but an apple fritter is not a donut.
Why don't we
you guys are raising my blood sugar right now.
Let's talk about bagels.
All right. Hold on. Not the smartest guys in the room. Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you. We live stream in a few places. We started off talking about donuts because my wife, and I don't mess with me because I say donut. That's what I want to call it. That's what it is to me. So forget you. Anyway, we started off talking about that. We're going to talk about publishing books too. Today, I wanted to dig into it. Tom just wrote a book. A few of you have written books around here. So just some of the must-dos. So we could talk about bagels. We could talk about fritters. We could talk about Tom's putting pepper on everything. But if you're considering writing or if you have wrote, any must-dos. So Swifty, let's lead off with you. We'll go around and then we'll get this started. Any must-dos for book writers?
I wish I could say there's must-dos. The one thing I learned through the book writing is to try to find out and establish who you really want your book to serve and create that niche, because the mistake is thinking it can serve everybody, and that is difficult to do. And the other thing I learned is figure out your marketing plan before you start. The one thing after my first book that I learned was you should create, at least this is what I've read and been told, you should create your marketing plan first, which will help you answer a lot of questions going forward when writing your book, because writing the book may seem difficult. Marketing the book, way more, in my opinion, way more difficult, because you reach the finish line of having the book written and you're dealing with a publisher now. And I think the biggest mistake people make is that they believe, once the publisher gets it, it's going to be out there in front of everybody, and getting it on Amazon and getting it on Barnes and Noble or Books A Million is not what drives people to buy your book. So write your marketing plan first and make sure you create your niche. That would be what I would suggest. I'm complete.
Okay, let's go on. Julie gave that a heart. Thank you, Brian. Brian actually wrote wrote like a ebook about marketing a book at one point. So it's kind of neat. But Julie, what do you got? Any tips for us? I know you do. So how about it?
Oh no, and I think Brian's so wrong. Sorry, not a Freudian slip. So correct. He, as writing a book, I think people get mixed up. They think your publisher is your publicist. So it's remembering that you as an author are your brand, and you are the one that's going to sell the books. Even if you are in one of the big 5 top publishers, you need to understand you are your brand. People buy because they like you, they know you, they trust you. You're the only one really and truly that can sell your books. So start creating the scaffolding of your brand online through either, and social media. I've never bought a book off with social media, but online.
Hold on. I want to go on. Tom's putting his finger up, and I was too.
He's putting his finger up.
But I interrupted you, and I thought I interrupted you, and then I thought Tom was putting his finger up because I interrupted you.
Which finger? I'm like,
no, my index finger. My index finger.
Tom will go, then I'll go. Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, you never bought it. You said you never bought a book off social media, but did you not?
Yeah, yours. Wait, except for yours.
I was going to. Okay.
But I know you.
That's all. That's why I held my finger up. That was it. That was why I know.
But the reason why is because I know you. Okay, I know, like, and trust you, and
right.
I know you're going to deliver an awesome product.
But then let me ask one more question, Julie. How did we meet?
On Clubhouse.
Which is
social audio. Okay. Right. Okay. So it's a long, I feel like a lot of authors, so this is what I've seen. A lot of authors are on this long and winding road. Like, I'm going to post on social media, meaning like Instagram or Facebook. And I know people can convert if they do Facebook ads, but seriously, when I'm just scrolling and seeing all these people talking about their books, I never go and, I got to buy this book. The reason why I bought your book, Tom, is because I know you're delivering a good product. It's something I'm interested in, and understanding the buyer behaviors. And it's about someone, if it's been recommended to you, if it's a gift or it's a topic that you need to learn about. But just simply throwing stuff on social media, I'm not going to stop the scroll to buy some rando's book, is kind of what I mean, if you will.
All right, bring it on, Julie. Bring it on. This is a subject I love, and one, like, I could dig into this all day. This, like, right here on this subject. So I'm the complete opposite, and I will say I 100% have bought. Like, I love Gary Vee.
Why do you love Gary Vee? This is
because Gary Vee delivered
brand.
Gary Vee delivered valuable content online consistently. Eventually, he gave online. This is where I come from with this principle. Gary Vee gives online, 100%. Like, you give, right? And then every once in a while, like, I even tried to buy those when he was selling whatever those.
But what else does Gary Vee do, Dominic? He's not just online.
He's a marketer. He's a marketer, one of the best marketers, speakers, but I've only seen him online. And then at one point he asked me, he said, Crushing It is coming out, and I bought Crushing It. And so I have a lot of people where if they deliver valuable content, I would love them to be other places delivering valuable content. But I think if people deliver value, where I think the miss is, Julie, and I will agree with you. So many people go online and they say, buy my book, make me number one, buy my book, I'm the best, buy my book. They haven't given me any value. I don't know them. I don't like them. I don't trust them. And they want me to buy their book. I haven't seen them for a year. They haven't posted anything. And now 30 days before their book comes out and 30 days after, it's boom, 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 buy my book, get my course, all kinds of crap like that. So go on, Julie. Let's dig into this.
No, and you're right in a way, but Gary Vee just isn't on social media. He has been building out a foundation on so many different platforms.
But they're social.
People know him. Like,
that's why you bought his book. No, because I don't know him from those other places. He may be there, but I only see him on social. I've had zero interaction with him. I've never been to an event he hosted. The only way I see him is social.
But he has credibility too, right?
Well, we're not saying not to get credibility. We're just saying.
I just think there's a misnomer though, Dom. People like these newer authors think they can just go on. This is where I think the difference is. Gary Vee's an established brand. But let's say, our boy Dragon, he's going to have a book coming out soon. If he's just on social media saying, okay, buy my book, nobody is going to buy their book.
Hey, hold on.
Expensive, intricate.
But what we can agree on here is I agree 100%. Let's get this clear. If you just go online and say, buy my book, that is shit sales. It's bad sales. It's terrible sales. So that I am agreeing with. So we can move on from that point. Anybody doing that is wrong. They are out of line. They haven't added value. They haven't added credibility. Now, if we move on from that and say, sure, you should be like attending events. You should be hosting events. You should be out in the public. You should be giving back. You should be on a TV show. You should be doing all these different things. But you need to be, if you're doing those and not giving value in those places or entertaining or giving value in some way. So let's continue down this road. Tom, do you want to add something?
Yeah. I want to share a quick story, right? Because, I agree with you and I hear what Julie's saying. I think a lot of people kind of go about it wrong, right? A lot of people will publish a book or have a book published or self-publish a book, right? And then we'll get on social media and go buy my book, right? And they'll buy ad space on social media, essentially saying the same thing, buy my book, buy my book, right? Which, as you very, very correctly pointed out, that's terrible sales. It doesn't even make sense. Like, why would you buy that book? Nobody in their right mind is going to buy that book. That's like a spray and pray method of sales, right? Where it's like, I'm just going to get as much out in the world as I can. I'm going to hit as many people as I possibly can with the hopes that like some of them might click yes, right? Might click buy. But it's not a good policy. It's not sustainable. It doesn't work really well, right? So like I'm not, and as anybody who's been in here with us before knows and has talked to me like knows that I'm not a fan of like the spray and pray methodology of like sort of sales or marketing, right? I'm much more quality over quantity. So that said, I do think you should talk about your book though, right? And I want to share an example of that. So yesterday I had a meeting with somebody who pre-ordered my book, right? And they pre-ordered my book and then they reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, just pre-ordered your book. Would love to set up a time to talk to you. They happen to own a video software business. And so they reached out to me after somebody shared their book. In the course of that shared my book with them. In the course of that conversation, I asked them, because we have a bunch of mutual connections in common on LinkedIn. And I said, hey, who was it that we both know that shared my book with you? I'd love to be able to say thanks, right? And they gave me a name. And I said, I don't know that person. And it turned out that the person that sent them the post about my book that I put up specifically is not somebody I know. They saw the post because somebody they know shared it and they passed it on to her because they thought it would be of interest to her, right? So like the point of me sharing that story is you have to talk about your book, right? You have to get out in the public. Like you were saying, Tom, go to events, right? Get on social media, create videos, but also add value. Like if you notice all of the posts that I've done in the last week about my book, and there's only about 3, right? Because I don't want to be the guy who's like, buy my book, right? They're very intentional. And like the first is, oh my God, I'm so excited, right? I did a thing. The top line of it was, I did a thing and it's going to change everything. And what I really meant by that was it's going to change everything for me and my business, and hopefully is going to change some things for more people. But a bunch of people took that to mean, hey, it's going to change everything for everybody. Let's share this, right? And so I had a whole bunch of people like grab the post and share it. And there's people still commenting on that post. I made a short video where I talked about how grateful I was for that outpouring of support that I received. And it just reminded me that when you're proud of something, you should share it with the world, right? because by and large, the response you will get from the world is positive and supportive, right? People will pat you on the back and say, good job, if you talk about something you're really proud of accomplishing, right? So that was the next post. And then this morning I just put up a post because one of my colleagues who shared my initial post, one of the things he said was legendeering ... Like, this is all he said. He shared the post. He said legendeering ... It's a thing. And I was like, that's it. That summarizes it so perfectly. Like, the whole point of the book and what I'm doing through my business and like trying to expand this mission is to humanize the world of business through better communications, right? Which you guys are probably all tired of hearing me say, but I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep banging on that drum until I wear it out. The way I'm going to do that is by turning legendeering into a thing. Right. And it just struck me as really like the perfect summation. And so I shared that. Right. So I think it's incredibly important to share about your book, to share about your work. And I am going to create content that digs into it a little bit, that talks about sort of the core values of the book. Right. Like, there is a key directive in the book, right, that kind of supersedes or kind of sits above everything else. That is the overarching principle in the book. And that is lead with value, right? That you always, always, always have to lead with value, give more than you get, right? If you lead with value, people will return that value to you. If you deliver value to your community, they will return that value to you, right? So lead with value is the overarching principle of legendeering and of the book, right? And it's right there on the front. There's even an infographic in the first few pages of the book, right, laying out that this is the sort of overriding principle. And I'm going to create content where I talk more about that, and why that's the overriding principle. And I'm going to talk about the sort of key directives in the book, of which there are 5, right? Like, one of them is relentless authenticity. Be relentlessly authentic, right? Another is start with story, follow with facts. I mean, I'm going to keep talking about it because I believe in the mission of legendeering. The book is about a lot more than just me, right? Or what I wanted to say to the world. The book is about creating change in the world and humanizing the world of business, right? That's what it's about. And in order to do that, I have to talk about it. I have to talk about it. And I have to inspire other people to talk about it. Right. So I think all of that is to say, get it out on social media, but do it wisely. Do it by using your platform to add value to your community. Right. And then give them a link to buy the book to return that value to you.
The link's up there, Tom.
Awesome.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for sharing from Barnes & Noble too. I want to draw just one slight point, and I'm going to create a piece of content about this too. But the book is available everywhere books are sold, right? Which is kind of an important thing for people that are outside of the publishing industry. It's something that's really important to me. We're working with an independent distributor. Amazon is not the distributor of this book. We're working with an independent distributor, my publisher and I. And the reason we're doing that is so that you could walk into any bookstore and give them the name of the book and my name and say, I want to order this book, and they can order it for you. And the money is going to that bookstore. So in my link tree, that's in I'll put it in my bio on Clubhouse, but it's linked everywhere else on all my social media, right? In my link tree, there are links to bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, right? Organizations that I would rather you give your money to than Amazon. Can you order it through Amazon? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I'm not really worried about being an Amazon bestseller. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about status when it comes to this book. I'm worried about the impact the book creates. So if you're like me and you want to support local bookshops, go to bookshop.org and order Legendeering, right? Like, that's a great way to support local bookshops and to keep local bookshops, in your communities. So I just wanted to say that, Dom. It's something else I'm going to create some content around, but I wanted to get it off my chest. So thanks for indulging me, buddy.
Hey, no, we're going to keep going down this route of, we were talking about donuts and we're talking about writing and publishing books and just a must. And one of the things that, you brought up, and Julie does very well, that you didn't say, but the premise was there. It was launch team. So at time of book, let's say Brian's releasing a book, Tom's releasing a book, somebody Tom knew shared post, somebody Tom knew shared content. Well, if you could get 10 people, if you could get 5 people, if you could get 3 people that really believed in you, and you go to them and say, hey, I'm going to be launching this book. Can you help me get this content out there? Can you send it to your group? Can you, maybe they own a restaurant and they would have you there to do a reading or something like that. So it starts out with launch team, like, okay, who can help you serve? Who can help you share content in any way? Maybe like I have, doctor's offices that have some of my books up in their they're helping in some way. But then, are there other people? Here's the bigger picture with the book. Are there other people that can benefit from your book? Meaning, is there a venue? Is there a physical therapist? Is there a counselor? Is there a restaurant at 4:00 in the afternoon that would love to have people there? Is there a networking group that needs speakers? I'm just going to go off on if you are not using the network, the breakfast clubs, the chambers of commerce, the Rotaries, the women's retirees group, they are all looking for weekly speakers, monthly speakers. It's low hanging fruit. You're going to sell $200 in books. You're going to meet 50 new people that tell people about it. It's the lowest hanging fruit. And to Julie's point, you do not have to, you can't be 100% dependent on, and I think what Julie is clear in saying, Julie, I want to defend you. You're saying people can't be 100%
Finally,
dependent
you're defending
on
me.
Yeah, I am. You can't be 100% dependent on social media. You are limiting yourself. So let's keep this going. Jason, we're talking books, and we were talking, this is iced coffee. Ooh, look at it, Tom. Mocha, and I'm on fire. You get me a mocha this early, I am doing it up. Jason, what do you got? How you doing today, brother?
I've never written a book, so I don't really have a whole lot of ads, but I would say as a consumer, and something we talked about media casters in one of our impromptu rooms was, I think that writers really need to consider, making audio and print. And if you can't do the audio right away, your quick follow-up should be an audio. And here's why. Because, a lot of people consume books through audio.com. They just audible.com. They do. But what people didn't know, and something I talked about, was I think all writers, if you want your book to be a success, take the opportunity to make a podcast highlighting certain sections or certain points, and make it into a podcast. And guess what? Audible.com, guess what? Plays podcasts, not just books. And so I blew people's minds away a few days ago because they didn't know this. And I think that you're missing out if you're not making content that promotes and cross-pollinates people's attention, whether they're in your niche or not, or people who could be familiar just by word of mouth. Like, hey, if I wanted to listen to Tom's book, great. But if I wanted to hear him talk specifically more directly about a point that he wants to highlight for the week or the month, I think that's a win. And then you can create microclimate content based on those podcasts and
Hey, Jason, clarify something for me. So when you're saying this Audible, you're basically talking audible.com. You're basically talking about like a micro podcast or something. Or are you saying,
no,
like,
your
let's say Tom
podcast,
says,
just like you listen to on Apple. So when you go to audible.com, the app, you're going to notice in your browser or your browse categories, you're going to notice all the books and the titles and genres and stuff. But there's another category called podcasting. And guess what? If you apply for it, just like you apply for Apple or Google or any other place that you put your RSS feed connected to, when you make a podcast that highlights your book, you're doubling down. You're getting people interested to give them a listenable format or getting them to buy. Like, you're not giving them the whole thing, but you're giving them enough of a taste in their mouth to where will they actually buy a book? And guess what? I've bought 3 books because I listened to 2 people's podcasts, like Mel Robbins. I bought her 5-second rule book earlier this year based on me listening to her podcast on Audible. So did I want to buy it? I've heard about it, but when I listened to her talk, as an example, and really listened to her talk in her podcast, then that caused me to buy. The second person that I bought a book from, I've heard about Gary Vaynerchuk, like you've all talked about, known about him for a few years now, but I bought Crushing It because I bought Crush It and I wasn't really impressed that much, but Crushing It, the sequel, was a better follow-up. So when I listened to him actually talk on his podcast, his social media, I bought the book because I want to read more about what he was talking about, because he highlights this, hey, in my book, Crushing It, or Jab, Jab, whatever, you're really doing yourself a favor, because if you're talking about it and people like to listen more than actually read the pages, great. But then if it causes them as an impulse buy, well, you know what? I'd love to have that book as a reference, and people do. So we have to accentuate the audio listener and the reader together, integrate them. So how do you do that? Now, you were saying, like in social media, you don't want to just toss your bait all over and hopefully you're going to hit somebody, but use it more focused, like Tom was saying. So if you take that opportunity, I'm not a writer, but I will be writing a book this year. I'm going to start writing it December 1st. One of the things that I have in mind is everything that I'm going to write is going to be a point that, or every chapter is going to have a point where I can make a podcast about it. I can advertise about it. I can refer back and forth, and I can create TikToks, Instagram, whatever, for people who search for books. Because guess what I search for on TikTok? I search for books on certain genres. I get recommendations who people talk about it, you know? So I like to get out of my sandbox to find new things. And if you're not doing that, then you know what? So just remember, as you writers out there, a lot of you have amazing work, but cross-pollinate and constantly refer back to your book and your episodes, your shows, your streams. You know, if you're not hitting that point, you're just leaving your book to hopefully be sold. And what I also observe in talking to writers, there's certain benchmarks: 10,000 copies sold, 100,000 copies sold, and then 1,000,000 copies sold. Why? Because when those are actually sold, those are remarks and income that tell you that people are interested in your topic. Otherwise, if you haven't even sold 100 or even 1,000, a lot of writers struggle to get past that benchmark. Maybe they haven't been exposed right. Well, how do I get you interested in maybe the way that you advertise it and market it? So you can use a podcast and do it through audible.com. And guess what? You'll listen to, you can go listen to the book, or you can listen to my podcast about points in the book. So I'll just land there.
Jason, man, good tips as always. Appreciate you. And it is a lot to think about. And I read the Crushing It too. And I love Gary Vee, love it. I was so disappointed in the first Crushing It because I thought he basically took his podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
It seemed like he copied from somewhere, really what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, it was not. It was, and I saw it right away, and I was disappointed in that. And you podcasters out there, I hold on, Brian, I'm coming to you right now. You podcasters out there, I got another friend who took his excerpts from his podcast, made a book. It was basically interviewed 50 people, made a book, and come on, man. Like, at least you could have said, like, in this, okay, next chapter, they're going to talk about this. I interviewed so-and-so, and they talked about, I mean, in this guy's book, it's like, hello, nice to meet you. How is it today? It was there was no, like, summation, no point at the end. He just took the excerpt and made the book out of it. But, come on, your reader. I'm a purist when it comes to books. Like, here's The Alchemist and some stuff behind me. Like, come on, you got to put some work into it. Mr. Swift, go on. What'd you want to add?
Maybe Gary Vee used AI.
He used, early on. I mean, he definitely just took it and copied. All right, not the smartest guys in the room. We're cruising on. JC, what's going on? JC, MC of Creative Con. What do you got going on, JC? You writing books? You releasing books? How about the books you bought? What made you buy them? Go on, my friend.
So I'm about to get out of my car right now is what I got going on.
What, Lambo? What
ironically-
are you rolling here, man?
You really want to know the truth?
Yeah.
I'm driving my wife's car right now, and it's like this family version of a, Mercedes SUV.
Okay,
So
cool. Good.
This is not the one that I pull up to a light and say, "Hey, ladies." How you doing?
Okay, fair. Go on.
But
Go
anyway,
on.
I'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm actually, ironically, for this conversation, I'm parked outside of and going back into my buddy Jim Quick's house, who is launching his book on a big scale, right? He's going for best at New York Times and all that stuff. So I've been with him trying to help him. And I have a couple of things that I noticed he's doing that I could share. But I'll be back in like 10 minutes.
Okay, man. Flash a couple times when you come back and we'll jump in and get you, man. Okay. Yeah, New York Times bestseller. That's about 5,000 books in a week. Number one on a couple lists. Sometimes with the Amazon bestseller, Amazon is a snapshot in time for those that do know, don't know. It may or may not be cool for you to be number one for 10 minutes or 1 hour in one category. More power to you. If you've done it, it's a quiver. Is it an arrow in your quiver or reverse? But it is also a snapshot in time. You can pick a category. Like I had a guy one time, he sold a movie to Showtime, and what was it? Making of the Tough Guys, making of the MMA or something like. His family, they think, started MMA, and Tough Guys. That's what they sold to Showtime, and so he wrote a book after the fact about it. Made it. I knew right away the first day I talked to him. Well, I'm going to make this a bestseller because in the category of boxing and mixed martial arts, nobody was reading. It wasn't going to take it wasn't going to take major books to move in that category. And that's so much of what you see there is manipulation of categories and things like that, or luck of the category. So I'm not saying it's bad to do. Hey, you're bestseller. Congratulations. It is cool. It's something you can mark. You can put a picture out. I did it. Yes, you did it. Cool. That is cool. But if you think that number one that was a snapshot in time is moving thousands of books, you might have done that. Like I have people that have done it giving free books away. When I look a little further, I see number one in free books. Well, is that big of an accomplishment? You gave the most books away. I mean, maybe you're trying to get your message out to the world. So, Tom, I've talked long enough. Then we're going to Tristan. Go on, man.
I mean, I have nothing against giving books away, right? I think that's a great thing to do. I plan to give some books away once I actually get some physical copies in my hands. And I do have some plans for events. Obviously I'm going to have books with me at Creative Con in February in Chicago, but then we also have plans for events closer to home for me around the Hudson Valley in New York. And I've already started laying the groundwork for those. So on board with your idea for talking about a marketing plan there, Brian, and the whole thing is there again, like legendeering is all about leading with value, right? And so in keeping with legendeering being about leading with value, none of those events are solely going to be about legendeering, right? Those events are all going to be specifically designed to be valuable networking events for all the people invited. And we'll also talk a little bit about legendeering and introduce them to the concept and hope to kind of spread the word and grow the mission that way. But ultimately, it's going to be valuable regardless of whether or not they buy a copy of the book, right? And that's the goal. But yeah, my whole kind of like dismissal about the Amazon bestseller thing earlier is because you can invent a category, and lots of people have done this, right? Like you can create a category and make yourself a bestseller in that category on Amazon. It's pretty quick and easy to do. You can find an incredibly obscure category, right? Like number one in books given away, Like, that's not you're literally not selling a book. You can't call yourself a bestseller if you're number one at giving your book away. Like, that's not bad, but it also doesn't make you a bestseller. And at the end of the day too, look, the bestseller lists, a lot of books that make the bestseller lists, it's because they very specifically structure large buys to happen within the appropriate time frame. So like the distributor knows that they have X number of books that they're going to sell and ship. They have a contract in place, right? Long before that week of the first week of release or whatever, that'll give you a bestseller for the New York Times, let's say, right? And what you do is you build up this list and then you just process all of those sales in the same week, right? You process whether it's pre-orders, right? If you hold on to pre-order sales yourself, or if you have a large like bookshop, something like that, or, maybe a friend that has a big chunk of change, right? And they're willing to loan you some money. And so you can go and buy 5,000 copies of your book, right? And you can make yourself a New York Times bestseller. Now, there is incredible value long-term in being able to put New York Times #1 best-selling author on the cover of your book and on reprints. So I'm not saying that it isn't a valuable thing to do. If any of you have a pile of cash sitting around and you want to buy 5,000 copies of Legendeering, hit a brother up. But I want people to know that like it's not the end all be all, right? And ultimately, like I think if you're creating something that is worthwhile for the world, right, then it shouldn't be the main motivating force. And I kind of look at it the same way I look at, money in business, right? Like my primary goal as a business is to serve my customers, right? To serve them well and to create positive change in the world through the work that we do, both for our customers and, in the way we represent ourselves as Talex Media. So like that's the #1 goal. And I believe, and so far I've been, this has borne true, but I believe, and I'm not the only example of this, that if you follow mission first, right? If you do the right thing first, over time, eventually the money will follow, right? But you have to trust in the process, and it's a long game.
Hey Tom, I got a question on that then.
Go for it.
How impactful? I never look at the New York Times for best-selling lists. I never do. And I don't find out about books because how impactful today is the New York Times best-selling list? I mean, is there any way to see how they make an actual impact? I mean, it may have done it before, but do people actually read the New York Times beyond?
And well, I guess
the East
Jason,
Coast? I think that's a question.
Yeah, Dom, you should probably answer this. I'll just give my like quick 2 cents, right? I think there's a lot of value from a marketing perspective, right? I don't think that your average person is either picking up the New York Times or opening it online and reading through the bestseller list to decide what book they're going to buy next. I don't think that that's realistic. I don't believe that that's what happens. What I do believe is that putting that moniker, putting that title, right? New York Times #1 best-selling author or New York Times best-selling author, right? On your book jacket, I believe has incredible marketing value, right? And being able to include
Right. It's
that
kind of
in
like an accolade, would you say?
Exactly. It's like it is not an award, but it's award adjacent, right?
And do they leave good reviews? I mean, like what they actually write a review on their website. I want to look at this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Dom, from your perspective, I mean, you're a publisher, right? So like what's the value?
To me, the value is it's opening up new doors. Or is it going to help you get bigger interviews? Is it going to help you get on the Today Show? Is it going to help another store, bring, like, let's say like a Barnes and Noble or something. Barnes and Noble, what a lot of people don't know, everybody's like, I want to be in the bookstore. I'm going to depress you and just be clear about something. Barnes and Noble, I can get you in any bookstore. I can send messages to Barnes and Noble and get you in. I'll write up a good little cover page, send it to the home office or send it to that store, and they'll bring in books. They'll say, okay, sometimes they'll bring in 2 books. They'll bring in 5 books. They'll bring in something like the New York Times bestseller might get you in 1,000 stores, 5,000 stores, something like that. Now, when you get in, if I put your book on the shelf that isn't properly marketed, you're not out there doing your thing, the world doesn't know you. Here's the kicker. So all they're seeing is this somewhere, and I'm holding up a book with the spine. Your spine is somewhere in a Barnes and Noble. Just because your book and the spine of your book is somewhere in Barnes and Noble does not mean in Minnesota that somebody is going into that Barnes and Noble and finding your book because you haven't properly marketed and things like that. So now, 30 days later, this is 30 days later, Barnes and Noble ships back the books and you pay a restocking fee and you pay for that book. So you can either get the books destroyed or you can have them sent wherever you want those books sent. And then all of a sudden in your royalties, if you have enough money in your royalties, you're not getting royalties for a while because you got 100 books sent back, 1,000 books sent back, 30 books sent back, whatever it is. So Jason, once the New York Times and those bigger people start promoting you now at the Barnes, they have New York Times bestseller section or something like that. And people are actually going to them and you are moving those books without doing the work. Okay. So not the smartest guys in the room. Mr. Swift, you flashed. Then we're going to Tristan, Dragon, Heather. Okay. Let me see. Heather, Richard, Prof T's in the house, Carrie, Barbara, Brian. Hey, Holly. Hey, Kathy. What's going on today? Kathy's just releasing a new book. It's coming out soon. So Brian, what'd you want to add?
Oh, nothing. Go ahead. Move on to the.
All right. Thank you, man. That's what I like. I like somebody that's quick and to the point. Move on. Let's do it. Tristan, what's up, man? Tristan's got, is that a dog? That's a cat. Look at this cat.
It's a cat.
Tristan.
Okay. It's my Bond villain pose from last night while minding the cat when trick-or-treaters kept bumping in and out the door and scaring them. So.
Hey, you want to, I have to interlude. Last night, so I have a pit bull terrier mix. It's a rescue. And last night, some like 10 kids come that my son knew. He's upstairs playing video games. All of a sudden, these kids come to the door. My dog runs out, and I'm not thinking much of it. And all of a sudden, I hear outside the house like, meh, 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 and I think the kids are like goofing around or something. Out in like a tumbleweed, my dog is like all over some little dog in front of the house. Like, I mean, like, I'm worried my dog has its like jaws on its throat. So it did not, and the dog was safe. But these 10 kids and my son, they're all standing there like nobody cared what was going on. And I'm thinking, could somebody maybe protect this poor dog? So that's what happened at my house, Tristan. All right, Tristan, go on, my man. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, all good. I'm glad not the only one who had chaos with teenagers in the house having a party. I was just wondering, and maybe it's not a fully formed thought, but this week I've been trying to understand more because it's not my core market of direct to consumer things. Partly because I was reading about how sort of what's the right word, brittle or fragile some of these are, especially in the fashion brand companies, because they're not built on just someone who runs the company and can be swapped in and out, and the business is the business and it has a brand. That founder is the image, it is the brand, and if they say something wrong just once, their audience can go down fast. As one of these brands had picked up some lawyers that were going after TikTokers and short form video people, and just for doing reviews, and I think they got a bit zealous, or they were getting paid too much for going after the wrong people, and that brand just got it got a bit of a smack. So this was what I was pondering on direct to consumer. Are books direct to consumer, or are they a shop product and they have to be sold through a whole cycle? So that was all I was pondering, or whether that's a changing thing, because possibly I only get recommendations from social media or podcasts, and then sometimes from friends on books, just to bring you back full circle. But this might be just a pondering rather than a topic for conversation.
Go. Hey, Julie, do you want to weigh in on that? I mean, because it's interesting. So he's saying, "Hey, I only get them from social." So what do you say in that case?
Surprise! Like, he must know these people. Like, I think understanding buyer behavior is super important, and what was it that made him lay down his credit card? Now on social, like I'll buy like on Instagram, like let's be clear, I buy a lot of like needless stuff, makeup, that sort of thing. I get engrossed with them using this, but in terms of authors, with the sidebar that I did buy Legendeering, which is amazing, like I don't know if clearly just social media is important, but if you're even picked up by a traditional 5 publisher like Random House, Penguin, blah blah blah, you want to make sure they look to see your social media presence. So I'm not dismissing the importance of it. I just am kind of poo-pooing buying the book.
Yeah, yeah. No, so Julie, I wasn't dissing you because I think it has to be a wholly integrated thing. But I think more and more, and from my friends who have published books now, these might be a particular type of audience book and slightly technical or business related or whatever. But more and more they're feeling that unless you are a really big name, that going with a publisher, and I hope I don't offend anyone in the room, is the wrong idea. Because they tend to just dump your book out and you've got to wait some 8 months, 100 months until they actually publish it. And they dump it out there and they put you in those channels. Now they can get you good calls and good meetings potentially. And maybe I'm conflating this with promotion and publishing, but you'll lose the control. You lose the book. You can't control it. You don't get the list. You don't get the audience. You've almost got to do that work again. That they found that they the self-publishing or working with smaller things and building it as an audience and building it as a piece that you're working with, very much almost one-to-one selling, and then it then goes out to bookshops and then goes out to a wider audience after that. But your core is almost being built out of not just social media, but your presence, your media, your promotion. So I thought that was interesting, maybe a change in books in the future of how much people want to be able to control it themselves and therefore profit from themselves. But no, not taking away from it should only be social media.
Tristan, man, good points all around. I'll tell you, the people from the moment I started, like mentors 10, 15 years ago, the people that, if you want to go back to like money and things like the people that made the most money doing it were the people that were out speaking every week and were selling books to their audience. So I had author from day one. This is 10 years ago. One of my authors I worked with, he was already making tens of thousands of dollars a speech. And he would tell me, Dominick, I sell 300 books when I walk in the room, 500 books when I walk in the room. If they just want me to, if they don't want to buy the books, then I just add the book to the price of his speaking. And so here was somebody, and I see that cycle repeated over and over with the people that are out. Like Julie said, if you're out, like I even told you about, like even the chambers and things like that, you're gonna move books because you're out there doing things. So now I want to get into this publishing. This. So I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say Barack Obama used Crown. I think that's who he used, like a division. I think they're a division of Simon & Schuster or something like that. So Barack Obama uses Crown. He gives up 40% to them. He sells 10 million books, whatever. Barack Obama was going to sell 10 million books no matter who he used. He could have paid me and Julie to gold plate his book, and he could have paid us $1 million, and he was still going to sell his 10 million books. And instead, he gives up 40%. They give him a 10 million advance or whatever. Here's a guy like those other guys I talked about. They already have a brand. Like JC has a global brand, and I don't know what he's gonna do with his publishing, how that is gonna work. Here's a guy with a global brand, like Barack. Barack did not need Crown to get the Today Show to interview him. He didn't need. I mean, everybody was lined up anyway. Now he thinks because that's just the way things are done, it's easier. But if it was a money play, which it wasn't, but if it was a money play, it was not the smartest way to go. So when you're doing this, you need to understand, why am I doing it? Is it money? Is it, well, like, let's say I am using one of those traditional, well, I don't have the time. I need them to market me. I need them to get me opportunity. I don't want to deal with it. Or like, I remember when I gave up my rights to my first publisher 10 years ago, well, I didn't have any money. I was broke. and I gave them the rights. Now, 10 years later, they try to get me to buy the rights off them for $5,000 and $10,000. Well, I can't forget. See, what happens is you move the goalpost. Looking back at it now, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I gave up my rights. I only made 20 cents a book, blah, blah, blah. But I was broke back then. I was bankrupt and all these things like that. I needed help. So now, 10 years later, I move the goalpost and say, because I'm looking at something different, I shouldn't have sold my rights. Well, at that point, to get it, it would have never happened had it not been for that deal. So anyway, I could go on all day. So JC, you said you had some points for us. You're back. We're going to go JC, Richard, JC, Heather, Richard, Prof T, and Carrie. Go on, JC.
So nice to be called JC every now and then. Yeah, and what's interesting, I don't know what you guys are talking about, because Julie actually told me that all I needed to do was have her be my publicist or my publisher, and that's all. And she gave me a $5 million advancement. So
That's
if
right.
anybody
That's
out
what we
there
do.
is
That's what we do
wondering,
here.
yeah, you guys are probably just fucking doing it with the wrong person. Anyway, so I just want to share my, because this is all new to me. First of all, what makes me buy a book on that topic is I read a book every week, and those books that I read and the massive takeaways and insights that they got from other books, that's how I go find my other books. So I'm always on a book trail. So if I were to read, the only reason I would find Legendeering, for example, other than I just found out about it, is if I read a book by Dom or Jules that said, Tom says this from the book of Legendeering. That's how I would find it. So that brings me to this idea of, when I look at my strategy as somebody that's going to publish for the first time, first of all, I would recommend not taking 8 years to write your book. And the only reason it took me so long is because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing and I never asked for help. So that's one takeaway. But it's, for me, it's all about, yes, content and getting out there. And I plan on doing stuff like that. But, and also being involved in events like Creative Con, right? I mean, that's like no brainers to be in events like that where you're in front of people. People can, like in Clubhouse, people can get value from you and say, hey, I want to learn more. Like I was on Harry Spate's podcast, and he put up a post. He was so nice to have me on the podcast, but then he put up a post and he gave some takeaways, and his listeners became interested in learning more about me because of what he said. So collaboration. So here I am. Jim Quick's a good buddy of mine, and he's launching a second edition of an already very successful book. And I would assume that's an interesting challenge, but his whole game plan is leading people to the purchase of his book. So I'll just give you a couple of things. So obviously he's on tour right now doing big podcasts. Another thing that I saw him doing is he's having a free event, which I think is going to be awesome. It's called Limitless Momentum. Ironically, that's what his new book is about creating momentum. So you go to that event, you hear from all these great speakers, but it's all going to lead you to his book. So, he's creating a lot of attention through giving free things away, free community driven content. And then another thing, and this is something you guys can all check out, take you 4 minutes at another time. Genius. So in his book, he teaches this concept. This is kind of what you were saying, Tom. It's like to add value to the things that you will read in the book, but not give you too much. So if you go to myanimalbrain.com, this is just an idea for you guys. myanimalbrain.com, you'll come to a Jim Quick thing, and for free, take a quiz, like a personality trait quiz, and it'll tell you what animal brain you have. And then he'll send you an email that gives you like all this data, kind of like 5 languages of love or 9 personality types. And it's hugely accurate, hugely valuable, and empowers you. But guess what? Once you feel that, he puts you in this state where you're like ready to rock. And guess what he's selling in the email, right? So just a couple of ideas. And I asked him on the the national bestseller, or New York Times bestseller, I asked him, like, because I'm just kind of like, like Tom, I'm foolishly just wanting to get my book out. I'm wanting to do it the right way and get it out there, but it's more about providing value. But I asked him what's the deal? And, there's an ego thing with it, first of all. If you put out a book and didn't get that, and a lot of your buddies did, there's an ego thing. There's a Barnes and Noble, section. But for him, it really was about it. I think it was Dominick, it opening doors, get on podcasts and on shows that like to interview New York Times bestsellers. Because remember something, it's one thing if you have Jim Quick on your show and you're just saying he's awesome, he coaches all these people. But if you introduce him as a national or a New York Times bestseller, you have that levels up the quality of the guest as well. So in closing, that's my strategy. Is I'm just going to collaborate with a lot of the people that I talk about in the book. I'm going to try to get on their podcasts. I'm going to get testimonials and forwards and all that stuff, and get other people talking about it. And outside of that, Jules is going to do everything.
$5 million,
Love
baby.
you guys.
Yeah, I think, look, JC, first of all, congratulations. I know firsthand from having, and it's very fresh in my memory because, Legendaring just went up for pre-order. So it's very fresh in my mind, just what a labor of love it is to get a book out in the world. And so congratulations on getting approaching that finish line. I know what it feels like, man. And I'm proud of you for seeing it through. It took me 2 years, and that's with a publisher. Right. And that's one of the things I wanted to hit on too, is I think it's really important, especially when you're first starting out, like, we talk about it all the time. Like, you can't be afraid to ask for help, right? Like, you have to know where your weak spots are. And unless you're a publisher, or unless you're somebody who is steeped in the world of publishing, it's probably a weak spot. So ask for help, right? Work with a publisher. There are tons of great publishers out there. My buddy Dom here is a great publisher. Julie, obviously, also, great, like working as a publisher, great publisher. My publisher, World Changers Media, great publisher. In fact, my book wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for my publisher, right? Like, my publisher came to me and asked me if I was interested in doing the book with them, right? I didn't even realize that I had a book to do, and they kind of pulled it out of me. So definitely work with a publisher. Take your publisher's advice. Your publisher has likely worked with a lot of other authors, has a lot of experience, and is not going to do the work for you promoting your book or marketing your book, right? Because that's not what publishers do. They're not going to do the work for you, but they're going to give you great ideas of how to do the work that you need to do, right? And they're going to be able to point you in the right direction and give you really sage advice built on a ton of experience. So listen to your publisher and ask them for advice when you're not sure what to do. And then to what Dom was talking about earlier, for somebody like Barack Obama, it like almost in hindsight, like knowing what I know now, right? It's kind of silly to me that somebody like Barack Obama would work with one of the big fives. Like, it almost doesn't make sense. They would have been much better. Like, he would have been much better off financially, right? And from an ownership perspective, from a rights perspective, would have been much better off to work with a small independent publisher or an independent publisher who he pays for their services, because let's be honest, he's got the money, right? He pays for their services, and then he keeps the rights to the book. Or he makes a deal where it's like, a 90-10 instead of a 60-40, right? Like, or an 80-20 even, right? But like, he could have worked with a small publisher and retained way more of the rights of the book, if not 100% of the rights of the book. And in full transparency, I have 100% of the rights to my book, right? So like, I'm not splitting. It's not like royalties are being a 60-40 split with my publisher. Like that's not the arrangement that we have, right? I
I'll
own
tell
the
you
rights
why
to the
Barack
book.
did it. Tom, like he got $65 million book advance. I mean, come on. He's not stupid.
Is that
Right?
the number? Is that the number,
Yeah, I
Julie?
just looked it up because I'm like,
Okay.
I wonder how much he got. $65 million.
So on 10 million
Okay.
book, so on 10 million books, what did he sell? On 10 million books, if he was selling for on 10 million books, that if he made $10 a copy, that's 100 million. So I wonder what Barack Obama, I mean, you can see right there, that simple, even at 65 mil, the biggest number. We know he sold more than 10 million books. I mean, he already probably lost. But I get that. I'd take 60 million. Hey, like Dragon said, anybody's offering 65 mil, 5 million up front, me and Dragon are signing.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to hand you a pile of cash, like there's a lot of things you can do with that pile of cash to put it to use, making money for yourself, for sure. Like in the meantime, I just think, like in the long run, for other things that you could do with a book, right? Because there's a lot of other things you can do with a book. It makes sense to retain as many of the rights like for me, right? It makes sense for me to retain the rights because there are a lot of other things I can do with legendeering as like sort of the jumping off point to build a lot of other things. Like already in development, right, is a workshop series for legendeering, right? Down the line, we're talking about doing a certification program for legendeering, right, for other content producers. So like there are other things I can do with that book and with the rights to the book that I wouldn't be able to do if somebody else owned a majority share of the rights to the book. So I think for a lot of folks, it makes sense. Like, whenever you can retain the rights to your IP, I think that's just generally, broadly speaking, good advice. But look, let's be honest, none of the big five were going to approach me because I'm not already famous. The big five are only interested, broadly speaking, in publishing books that are from people who already have a built-in audience big enough to cover the advance, right? Like they're not looking.
They don't lose.
Yeah, they don't lose. They're not hedging their bets, right? They're not taking a chance on Tom Langan, in the Hudson Valley of New York, right? They're not taking a chance on me, and that's fine. I'll forge my own path. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's like it's a very interesting world that my eyes have been open to that I wasn't really aware of before. But if you have a chance, get a publisher, for crying out loud.
You will notice. I'm sorry, Tom. Go on.
No. Go ahead, buddy. I was just gonna toss it back.
I wanted to say, like, you'll be surprised. Like, if you look in front of books now, like some of these people that are making like these speakers and people that are putting out multiple books, they are now creating their own presses. So you'll see a lot of that too. So they no longer they're like even David Goggins. If you guys know Goggins, like Goggins in the front of his book, he thanks everybody and he like Goggins blew up on social media. People love Goggins when he published his first book. He didn't use he used a hybrid where they helped him do the stuff, but kept all the rights. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to tell you. I was studying Reese Witherspoon yesterday. I'm fascinated with this whole Reese Witherspoon subject, her book club, blah blah blah. So I wanted to go a little deeper into the book club. And book can be published in no way whatsoever before. They don't even love like too many articles on it. But the book, you can't have a self-published book. You can't have a book published in any other way. And Reese Witherspoon's team, when Tom was talking about rights, gets like every right going forward. I mean, they're giving you a little taste and they're promoting it on this big platform, but their team is controlling the movie rights, everything down the road. So, yeah, so be it.
There's some arguments, or like I've heard some theories that like I don't think anybody really knows the actual number. But there are some I've heard people talk about Reese Witherspoon's sort of net worth as a result of this book club business that she's built, or that she and her team have built, and she's estimated to be over $1 billion because of all of the rights that they've optioned from books through this. Primarily, like that's the major source of net worth. But I've heard several people talk about the fact that she's like kind of quietly become a billionaire. at least on a paper billionaire, because of this book club and because of optioning the rights for films from these books. What
Yeah,
did you just Google it, Dom? What'd you find?
no, I didn't Google it. I was just, I just saw that the other day about the billion too. So, all right, let's keep it rolling. We got people to talk to, Tom. Enough. Heather, what's going on? Weigh in. What do you tell us about messaging, books, whatever you want? Go on, Heather. Algorithms.
I've
I know
been
you like
really
that. Yep.
enjoying the conversation about the books and writing them. And Julia's right. Publishers and such do watch your social media presence, because I just got hired by an author because she specifically said that. She was like, they watch social media, so I need somebody to manage my social. I'm like, all right then. But I will say, and then to, oh my God, is he not here anymore? No, he's not here anymore. He was talking about the Audible side of things. So my sister actually owns a studio called Mockingbird Studios out in New Zealand, but she's a studio for authors as well as musicians. So if anybody needs that done, it's called Mockingbird Studios in New Zealand. She lives out there. She is coming back next summer for a tour because she's also a singer-songwriter. But I just wanted to put that out there. And also, me and my husband are going to be writing a book, and he did mention that, like, if it's really good, we should get it published. And I'm like, yeah, I guess, but I really want it to get it out there as fast as possible, because the information within the book can change due to updates on apps and whatnot. So basically, my husband is a IT infrastructure and security professional and has been doing it forever. And then me, obviously, in social media. So we're going to be writing an online guide and checklist and how to like step-by-step guidebook for parents and how to set up parental controls on specific and the very most popular apps like Roblox and Minecraft, browser settings, phone settings, the importance of online safety. I have 3 kids, so it's really important, and we're from a blended family, so having all of the parents on the same page is super important as well. So I'm like on chapter 3 so far. It's going to take a while, and then we have to cross-reference everything. But like for information that changes so much, I'm like, if I get it published, right, then like that information could be invalid, like not right in like 6 months. So, stuff like that, like an interactive checklist or, an actionable book and that's what I really like. Whenever I write a book, and I have a couple digital products, right? Like they're not like, they're ebooks, right? They're not on Amazon even. They're not even, and I could put it on Amazon, but they're just digital products, but they're more actionable things. Like here's a checklist to check your social media search engine optimization. I like actionable things in reading because you could read a book all day long. You could literally read a book on self-help all day long. You could read a book on this, that, and the other. But if you don't take action or do anything with the information provided to you, then I think that's really stupid and a waste of time. So adding that actionable, interactive element to it, I think would be beneficial, especially with the topic that I'm going to be undertaking. So, yeah, being an author is hard, but it's fun. I like writing. I've been writing for even before I started my business. I had a blog. I wrote. I mean, literally, even before that, I had what is that? A blogger account in high school. So I've been a writer my whole entire life, and I just really really enjoying this conversation about writing and authors and what to do and what not to do, and everybody kind of thinking outside the box, because you kind of do need to think outside the box. What Julie was saying, if you're scrolling and all you're doing is just buy my book, nobody's gonna like want that. So I'm really appreciating this conversation. So thank you.
Let's do it, Heather. Thank you very much. And one of the things that Heather makes a point that that we haven't discussed, and it is very crucial. The why. Why did you do it? Why are you doing it? So in her book, where she's going to give tips and strategies and things like that, and she knows so she can't go to big five because it's going to take a year to get to them. You need query, you need this. Her timeline is limited. So the reason she's putting out her book is X, Y, and Z. So if you know the reason why, let's say Tom wants to legendeering, humanizing the world of business. Did I get it? Did I nail it, Tom? See, so Tom said it so many times over the years, humanizing the world of business, right? I get it. So now, if that's really Tom's mission, and this is where I sit, Dragon, Julie, and above all, if at the end of the day your mission is true, if Tom really wants to humanize the world of business, which I believe he does. So if one person reads his book and then treats their customers a little better, or comes back to him 6 months from now and said, hey, I run a car dealership and we decided we're not going to, like, my wife's in, she's in, I don't even want to say this. She's in, somebody I know is in business, and at this big company, they talk in heads. The people that work there are heads in head count. And sometimes they have to make decisions based on heads, that they cut heads and things like that. And that is not humanizing the world of business. It is the complete opposite of what Tom is trying to achieve. So maybe someday Tom will work with a company like that and they won't treat people as heads anymore. And they'll say, well, we may this kind of conversation. So maybe. So my point, if Tom is true with what he wants and he makes one, so if Heather helps one person, did she win? Sure, we want to help more people and maybe she will. But at your root, did you help one? Did you help 2, 3, 4, 5? Each time you win. Now, if you went into this and you said, oh, I need to make $1 million. Well, then me and you should just start day trading because that's a faster way to make $1 million. Let's, figure out, let's get our Series 6 and we'll trade. And it's an easier route. Like if you're looking for straight money. But if you got into it with this intention, like I love fishing and I want to help people find the best secret fishing holes. I want to make people smile. Well, that's pure. I wrote a book about Alzheimer's in my mom a couple of years ago. I read Tristan, if you're still here, Tristan put a comment, and I know he's kidding. He said, Heather, you're about to be on the worst selling list because people won't understand the topic. Right. When I wrote a book about Alzheimer's and my mom and unconditional love, this isn't a topic that is blowing it out of the right. It's not people aren't going into Alzheimer's and dementia books and saying, I wrote it cathartically. I wanted to help some people. And if I do that, hey, all of a sudden, a year or so, it got in a traveling Alzheimer's library. Right now, more people are going to read it. Every so often I go somewhere and somebody says, hey, I read that book. Or are you the guy that wrote that book? It helped me through. Yes. Tristan, I'm on the worst sellers list with it. You know what I mean? But each time somebody says, I'm like, yeah, I did that. That's why I did that. So, all right, Tom, I slowed down. Go on.
Well, I think, what you were just talking about with like, depending on what the goal is, right? Then like, for me, like for a mission driven, like with a mission driven goal, right? Legendeering, the goal of the mission for my business, the book is, sort of integral to that mission to humanize the world of business through better communications, right? For me, every time somebody says legendeering, it's a win, right? Every pre-order is a huge win. Every time somebody clicks like to one of the posts I put up about the book on social media, that's a win, right? Like every time, like literally every time that word comes out of somebody's mouth, it's a win, right? Because it's a word I made up, right? I invented the word legendeering in this context. I created it. And every time somebody says it, it's a win, right? So like, I think it really depends on what your goals are. And like you said, I didn't write this book to make a ton of money. I wrote this book to help further a cause, right? To further a mission, to help people understand both how they as business people could better communicate with the communities that they seek to serve, because all businesses are service businesses. I'll die on that hill, right? All businesses are service businesses. So it's to teach businesses how to better communicate with the communities that they seek to serve, but also to teach consumers what they can expect from the communities that they seek to serve, or from the businesses that they interact with as community members, right? What can they expect from those businesses? Because if you know what to expect, or what you should expect, if you know that the businesses should be communicating with you in a better way, more effectively, right, then you can demand that they do it. And so I think that's incredibly important also. But yeah. So anyway, that's, I think it just depends on what your approach is, right? What you're trying to accomplish. And like you said, if it's mission driven, then every little piece is a win. During this live stream, since we've been on this live stream, which, by the way, in case anybody is new here, we're live streaming all across the internet. Not Too Smartest. That's not even the name of it. What am I talking about? Not the smartest.
You are right. You are right. I
See,
like
I'm an
that.
idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm calling us the smartest guys. That's exactly the opposite of the title, right? We're not the smartest guys in the room. And we're streaming all over the internet, right? We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, Twitch. We're all over the place, and it's every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. We're always here, so make sure you tune in, check it out, share it with your friends, spread the mission. And Dragons JC's asking who's the smartest guy in the room, and I'm going to plead the fifth. I don't know, and I'm not going to vote. But anyway, we're not the smartest guys in the room. That's the whole point of this. Is we're always looking to surround ourselves with people who are smarter, more brilliant than we are. So we appreciate you guys all being here with us every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Dom, I don't know what happened to your camera, buddy. Your camera.
See, I got cocky a couple weeks ago. My Uncle Tommy was here, and I got a wire running through my whole house down to my office, hardwired, like you said. I didn't plug it back in. I should have, Tom. So I got cocky. I thought wireless was going to be the way, and now I've let Tom and our streamers down. I am apologetic. All right, let's go to Richard. Buying 3letter.com domain. 3letter.com domains. Richard, this is interesting, but weigh in, man. What do you got to say today? Three, two, one. Richard says, we'll come back to Richard. Prof T, I know it is chilly in Philly today, so go on, Prof T. What do you have for us? You wrote the grid system. The grid system. Go on.
Oh, thanks. I didn't know. I wasn't expecting my turn yet. Thank you. Yes, it is a bit chilly in Philly. I went for my walk, and it is stunning. Leaves, beautiful sunshine. Just a marvelous day. Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here. You guys, in my book, this is the best room to be in. So I don't have much to offer because I was just listening and I learned so much. This room for me is more of a learning experience for me. So thank you. But I will leave with this as far as writing books. Yeah, I've done some good things, bad things. I learned some lessons. But to Tom's point and Dom's point, I have a client who is a professional chef to corporate caterers. Okay, so met her through a different venue, and we were working on some mindset stuff. And she came in one day, and I said to her, look, I'm going to give you a free copy of my book. And I handed it to her, and she's like, oh my God, my therapist has this book on her desk. And I asked her who her therapist was, because it's a small town here. And she gave me the name, and I said, I don't know her, but God bless her. So that one book got into the hand of somebody who showed it to somebody else, who ends up meeting me by accident. And then what happened was she said, this book has changed my life. I want to hire you. And we did a substantial contract for me helping her to promote herself up level. And she wants to go further in her catering and corporate chef career. And so you just never know. Persistence and patience. And someone saying book changed my life, for me, if that was the only book that I gave to someone or sold or someone bought, to me that was enough. So that's all I wanted to share. Real live example of helping people when your mission is your mission. Just keep going. Thanks. This is Prof T from Philly, where it's still a little chilly. Thank you guys. God bless.
Hey, Prof T, thank you. As somebody who came out with your first book, what do you think? For I know you do a lot of networking. What do you think the best? What do you think made you move the most books out? Whatever it was, what tip would you give? Like that worked for you the most?
I think the biggest tip that worked for me was all the networking that I've been doing face to face. The footwork of actually going to networking events and using my book. I gave out a lot of books. I'm not going to lie. That's what you got to do when you're starting out. So now I give books to all my paid clients. They come in and they get a book as a parting gift. Thanks. I hope that helps.
Doesn't that speak to like your book being your calling card and kind of shifting your thoughts? Like, I'm going to be a millionaire because I'm writing a book, and you have this ability to get author copies, and it establishes you as a thought leader. And I've seen that clearly with Prof T.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I learned that through Julie because I was struggling. Like, do you give books out? Do you not? People are like, never give your books away. And then I'm hearing your books are your calling card. People don't know. I'm not famous. So, but, things are getting around and out and about. And in my neck of the woods, I am helping people, and giving a book away leads to someone else that leads to someone else. But what I'm doing mostly that's helping folks is giving clients, now that my client list is expanding, I'm able to give a book as my gift for signing on with Teresa.
And I'd rather
Julie,
give away a book than a business card any day.
yeah, I agree. But listen, my book's not for everybody. Everybody's book isn't for everybody. Um, so I think you have to know who your audience is as well.
Hey, Prof T, thank you. And just to jump on there, I don't think Prof T's really, as a publisher, I don't really think you're giving the book away. It is a value add. So I would just change the terminology. And now you'd say, yeah, I am giving it away. But if they're a client, it's a value add, and it's just part of the package at that point. Sometimes, like, giving it away is you're handing them out in the parking lot of the local grocery store to people that are just passing by. That's what I don't know if is that fair?
I have to tell you, truth be told, this is funny, but I have books in my car at all times. And if I strike up a conversation with somebody, oddly enough, it depends. But if I'm so moved, I could be in the parking lot of a shopping mall. Hey, as we're talking, this might bless you. Have a great day, and please share this with somebody else who would like to be encouraged, or someone who would benefit from reading this book.
That's fair. That's fair. And
Yep.
yeah, go on. I'm sorry. Go, finish your thought, Prof T, then we'll go to Tom. Go on.
Yeah, thank you. All I want to say is I think you just have to know yourself, be self-aware, and be okay. If you give books away, you got to be okay with it. I've beaten myself up at times, but I've also learned so many things. And of course, Julie has really taught me how to do this well. But I just feel like you just got to know yourself to grow yourself, and be okay with however you maneuver and pivot and value add. I like that. I'm going to use that value add. Thank you.
I think that's a great way to phrase it, Dom. The value add, and I'm glad you're going to start using that, Prof T. I just want to offer a quick anecdote for everybody about kind of ways to quote unquote sort of give away or put copies of your book in people's hands without them having to go buy it. So one of the things that often happens after you publish a book, after you become an author, is you often get invitations to speak on stages, right? Or if that's something you're pursuing, it's easier to get those invitations once you've kind of got the credit and are seen as a thought leader because of your authorship of a book. And one of the things that somebody I know did is he got invited to go speak at a big national conference of an industry organization, a large financial services company. He got invited to go speak at their national conference in San Diego. He was the keynote speaker, and everybody in the audience got a copy of his book. Now, I happen to know this guy pretty well. His name's Will Gadara. He's quoted in my book. He's an old high school classmate of mine. And I can promise you, Will is a very, very good businessman. I can promise you that he did not pay for those books out of pocket. So it's something you can think about doing if you want to make sure that everybody in your audience gets a copy of your book, build it into your speaking fee, right? You don't have to charge retail for those books. You can charge whatever your cost is for those books. You can pass that on. But just an idea, if you want to get copies of your book into everyone's hand in that audience, build it into your speaking fee, right? Bump up your fee to account for the number of copies of books you have to order, right, as author copies to put those copies in everybody's hand, have them shipped to the venue, and then put them in everybody's hand, and have the organization that's paying you to go speak pay for those copies of books for their audience, right? For their community. So like there's a lot of ways to do it where you don't have to go out of pocket. Now, I don't know, I haven't asked Will specifically, but I would bet money. I would lay down cash on the table that he did not pay out of pocket for a single copy of those books that he gave away to the audience at that speech. I would almost guarantee that it was built into his speaking price, his speaking fee. And I think that's a totally fair and reasonable way to put copies of books in people's hands and, make money as an author, right? Because let's be honest, like we didn't write books to lose money.
Tom, and that's what I was saying about my first mentor, like early on, one of the guys I helped publish, he had already been down this road. He was already speaking, making over 10 G's every time he spoke. And it was clear as day. This is 10 years ago. And he said he knew the hard cost for books. If I was going to get this much, everybody in the audience got this many books. And he could once you understand the hard cost of books, well, he could mess with I'll speak for free, but then everybody's getting a book and you're paying for the books. And then he upped the margin on the books and still got his 10 G's per speech. It didn't matter, but you have to, when you're speaking like that, if you know your margins, it's gold. So yeah, think about that. Like just talking to a guy at a convention recently, weekend convention, where he was up on stage. Come on. They were giving him a booth. They were giving out books in every bag. I mean, there's so many ways to make money. So yeah, I don't want to get lost in that aspect of it, but it is a tool. It's a resource. Like Julie said, at some points, it's a business card. You figure out, oh, I have this thing with my message in it. How am I going to use it? It's a business. So in a lot of ways, it's a business. And so if like I know every unit cost, I know the bulk cost. I know when we sell 100 books, I can sell 100 books sometimes, and I'm going to make this much on it. It's the same 20-minute phone call, 30-minute phone call. Okay, then we'll sell 500, and I drop the price another $1 a book because it was the same 20-minute phone call, and I was worried the person wasn't going to buy, so I still dropped the price, blah, blah. Same. So when you know those kind of margins and understand the business of it, well, then it's gold. Okay, Carrie, it's 11:03. We're going to meet Carrie and Stephanie. I'll find something for show and tell, and then Tom will wrap us up. Carrie, what's going on? Weigh in on all this.
It's been an amazing morning. Great tip about the 5. I don't know that I could find someone that would purchase 5,000 books, but interesting. One thing I want to say is I have seen people with no social media presence get picked up by a big 5 because they've had a memoir with a great story. So it's turning a little bit. I have a book coming out. I'm actually working on the cover right now. And I've learned a lot in the process. I got a book deal 2 years ago, and I waited a year because I held out and I got tired of waiting. And so here I am. It's been a pretty challenging process, but learned a lot, really excited. And it's really, really wonderful to listen to everybody's challenges and how they've navigated and the tips that they've shared today. So what I would say get on a plane, come to Boston. If you are trying to help someone, the imagery, that if you have a bunch of great images in your media kit, it's going to help you get press. And you got to get that stuff buttoned up before you launch the book. And that's just someone who's been in the media their whole life. And that's why I walk the walk, and I'm killing myself with this cover because I know it's the first thing. The imagery is the first thing that grabs you. So that's all I have to add today. So thanks.
Carrie, thank you. And I want to go back up to Carrie's point. Like she said about, if you know the genre, let's say you're J.K. Rowling or somebody like that. Now we all know she tried 100 different publishers, 100 different, and she kept blogging and things like that. But if you believe in your message and you are not, where people struggle is they put an artificial deadline on a lot of times. This is my motivation champ, Dom Domasky tip. An artificial deadline is the biggest threat to a successful book. So, Carrie, if you said, well, I need the big five for these purposes, or I did a book about fantasy and I'm just going to keep writing query letters to fantasy people. Well, then, like I remember when I signed with my first publisher, I wrote all these query letters and they would say, oh, Dominick, you don't have this. And then I would use exactly what they put. I would put in the next query letter to the next publisher. And I learned from each one and said, oh, I'll change this. I'll change this. So I'll make my plan better. I'll do this, blah, 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 blah. So there's nothing wrong with searching out these publishers. And if as long as you know, like Heather was saying, Heather didn't have time for the one piece of content that she was going to put out to go to these big five, because it could take 6 months. It could take a year. It could take years. So, all right. Let's see here. Was there something I wanted to tell you about?
Carrie, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just
Well,
wanted
Dom's
to
looking
add.
for his Dom's going to look for show and tell. Carrie, what do you got to say?
Okay, so in the industry of, say, a lot of people I photograph are celebrities and athletes, whatever. So I had a lot of, as far as the big five, and because I have a podcast and a lot of people have books, a lot of the people who were signed with the big five got an advance. They have not moved a lot of books, and I hear it over and over again. And then I heard, okay, you can this stuff and write 100, cover letters and all that. I didn't have time. It was a pandemic. Entrepreneur. Everybody's got the same story. So I didn't want to waste a lot of time doing that. And I could have done that. And I did waste time trying to figure out the next move and what to do. And the book that I'm publishing is with Leadership Books, and I love them. And they find people who have TED Talks or have a podcast and they're speaking, and they move. I think that they are going to do a terrific job. And I think there's many ways to get there. And I don't think you have to necessarily do one of the big five. I think, like Prof T said, she's a mad networker. Julie, like there's so many different ways of doing it. And just because they got some kind of advance or just because they signed with the five, I don't know that that's the way now, because there's all different ways of moving. If you've got a good message and you've got a story and you have stuff that is going to help, you've got information that's going to help people, you'll be able to figure it out. And so that's what I'm hoping on. So that's it.
No, Carrie, good stuff. And there are so many ways. That's what I think. There's so many routes. There is not one perfect route. There's so many, and you could take a little piece of each one of them. Another early mentor of mine, he had sold 400,000 books. I was like, oh, how'd you do it? And he said, I paid college kids $2 a book. And I was like, what? That was how simple. He had no other plan. He went to a group of college kids. He was a motivational guy, paid college kids $2 a book. And then just keep growing from there. So many different ways. Try them. Trial and error. It's okay. Not everything's going to be perfect. Go. I just want to say, I've sold thousands of books. I've spoke at, I talked about all those Rotaries, and I did the author events on the weekend, the fairs, the home shows. I remember being at the home show on stage. They give you a stage spot. Nobody was there but me. I'm on the stage by myself. This happens. This is part of the game. I'm on the stage by myself talking to people while they're eating their gyros and steak sandwiches. It's all a learning experience. So you go, that day I didn't feel that great. Well, but I connected with 3 more people. Hey, it was a win, got my message out to 3 more people, even though they were eating gyros and steak sandwiches. And like we were in like a barn where like the pigs were or something, like at the county fair. So, but anyway, all right, to show and tell. And then Tom's going to wrap us up because it's been too long. All right, Tom?
Sounds good to me, man. What do you got this week?
Okay, what I got. Okay, we're going to keep it simple today. This is a Dennis Rodman rookie card. So this is Dennis Rodman when he played for the Pistons. Well, why am I bringing up a Dennis Rodman? Why did I care? Because Dennis Rodman was, I believe at the time he was he was a janitor at the airport. Somebody scouted him, and then he went and got a scholarship to like a D2 school, played there. The thing about Dennis Rodman that I love, so one, he took an untraditional route. But once he made the NBA, he played harder than everybody else. He made the Hall of Fame, not because he scored the most points, not because he was the greatest. He played harder. It was clear that he played harder, diving out of bounds, running around like a knucklehead. He played harder. So sometimes, this is Dennis Rodman, little rookie card, but I love that aspect of sometimes. Sometimes we talk about, well, you can't just put your head down and do it, but sometimes you can. And here was a guy that was an example. He worked on his other trades. He studied film and things like that, but it is clear as day. This guy gave it his all. So I'll leave you with this today. Whatever you're doing, make sure you're like this guy, giving it your all. Dennis Rodman. All right, Tom, you're up, my friend.
So I have before I wrap up, I have a quick question. So we were talking about, we were joking earlier that if you got a rich friend, right, or somebody, or if you've got a bunch of money laying around, you could spend the money, which would be in the tens of thousands of dollars, right? Obviously, somewhere in the probably, depending on if you're paying, wholesale prices like author prices, $20,000+, right? To buy 500 or 5,000 copies of your book. So let's say probably $30,000+ to buy, 5,000 copies of your book. Right. So let's say you do that, or, somebody that's got 30 grand laying around that they're happy to just spend that cash for you to get you to the bestseller list. My question is this, like, would you be better off working with a marketing company, right, and saying, look, I got 30 grand. I'm going to give you $3,000 a month. Let's do a retainer, or I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you $6,000 a month for 6 months. Let's do a retainer. And I want you guys to market the hell out of my book for the next 6 months. Like, which way do you think you're going to sell more copies? I'm genuinely curious. Like, what do you think, Dom? Like, which is good? Are you likely to sell 5,000 copies faster if you have somebody just buy them, or are you likely to sell more than 5,000 copies if you take that same cash and put it into marketing with a professional?
Well, you could buy 5,000 in a day, and she might have, I say she, I know somebody that did that recently. You might have thrown them in the trash, So if Tom wants to humanize the world of business through legendeering, buying 5,000 books that go in the trash is not a great idea. If you're trying to market and get them out into the hands of business owners and CEOs, if I'm you, I'd be all over LinkedIn. If I could do LinkedIn marketing, I would spend, because if you're trying to humanize the world of business, I would spend all my money on LinkedIn targeting, whoever makes those kind of decisions. But no,
yeah.
So sorry.
But do you think, but I mean, like I'm just saying, like, so if you took that same money, if you took 30 grand, right? So let's just say 30 grand for round numbers. If you take 30 grand, like, do you think in 6 months you're going to sell more than 5,000 books through marketing as opposed to just buying 5,000 copies?
This is such a weird question, because you could buy 5,000 that day. Of course it's quicker, but.
Oh, right. So not quicker. I shouldn't have said quicker. I'm just saying.
Could you sell more, invest in? Yeah.
Right. Like, will you, like, what's the better investment, right? Like, is it better to buy 5,000 or to invest that money in marketing and maybe sell 10,000 because you put 30 grand into marketing the book?
I would say it's not a one for one. And what is the business? So if the business is to get speeches where you're making 10 grand, right, you're using that as a tool to get open these other doors. Like a lot of business owners write a book to sell their programs, to get them on stages, to show how they build a better vacuum and get you to also build, buy their system to build vacuums. So I think done right, you could if you had that kind of money, you could exponentially grow. Like I'd probably buy a video team. I'd buy a video team and go around producing content like our friend Gary Vee does. It would be video content based on legendeering, based on Heather's topic, based on being omnipresent in the media. That's what I would spend my money on.
Gotcha. I was just curious. Like, what you thought the wiser spend was.
To me, it's kooky to just pay $5,000 to get you on some list. It's that I think, or to pay 30. It's kooky, but I understand that if any person, like JC said, that some people it's a vanity metric. Their buddies did it, so it wasn't that wasn't necessarily about moving books. It was about the metric of doing what somebody else did. And that's why, well, if you're Kim Kardashian, she better pay her money and get those books out, because otherwise I'm not sure that anybody's buying. I don't know. Go on.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like I said, I was just curious. I mean, I know what I would do, right? Because like you very clearly said, and what I said earlier, like I'm not focused on trying to make a bestseller list for the sake of making. Like, look, if I happen to build enough groundswell support that I make, a bestseller list as a result, like that legendeering makes a bestseller list as a result, like that's great. That's amazing, but that's not the goal, right? The goal is the broader mission, right? And to spread this mission to get people, like I said, every time somebody says legendeering, I think that's a win, right? So it's to get people to adopt this methodology and this strategy, right? Because I believe that it will make the world of business a better place, both for businesses and for consumers, right? And that's the end goal, to humanize that world, right? So yeah, bestseller list would be awesome, icing on the cake for sure, but definitely not the be all end all. And if I had 30 grand sitting around, burning a hole in my pocket, then then I still probably wouldn't spend it on 5,000 copies of my book. I'd spend it on a marketing team to spread spread legendeering, right? Like to get the message out. That's what I would do. So anyway, all that said, I think Dom, give me a thumbs up if I'm right, but I think you're ready for me to do my little thing and wrap things up.
Yeah, man, I've had enough. You did really, but I just want to say, I know we talked more about publishing today, but love the room, man. Love that we are able to do that in this room. That some days we're going to talk about podcasting, some days we talk about 10 different things, algorithms or threads, but it was cool to dig down into publishing today. So thanks, Tom. And thanks everybody.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I'm glad we were able to do that too, because we do spend a lot of time talking about, sort of my world of video, right? And probably less time talking about your world in publishing. So I'm glad that things were flipped a little bit this week, and we were able to, talk about it. And I was able to contribute something, hopefully maybe valuable to somebody, because I'm going through the process with my own book. So, I was talking earlier about how valuable I think it is to talk about and share your accomplishments with the world, right? Because the world will respond with support, right? And empathy and encouragement, right? And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They're afraid to share their accomplishments because they're afraid that the response they get will not match their own pride. Right. But if you're authentic and genuine in sharing your accomplishments, I think the response you will get will absolutely match the pride you have. And to prove that point, I want to share a text that I got literally while we were on this live stream today, while we're in Not the Smartest Guys in the Room with all of you brilliant, amazing people, I got this text from somebody I haven't spoken to in, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 years. Okay. And this person texted me. He's a younger guy. He's in his early 20s. He's in the world of business. Has done some work in marketing. Has done some work in retail and sales and customer service. And this is what he said. And I'm going to not say his name because I don't need to put him on blast, right? But here's what he said. Long time no see. Hope all is well. I've been following your book updates and stoked to check it out. ! I've got one on pre-order. I've learned a ton about the power of video and what it can mean for a business, organization, individual, etc. Excited to read through your expertise in this. Congratulations! ! So I just want to say that had I not been sharing how proud I was of the work that I was doing through Legendeering, had I not been sharing how excited I was to bring this work into the world and to share it with everybody, to get those little wins of people saying Legendeering out loud, right? And talking about my book and adopting this strategy. Had I not done any of that, I never would have gotten that text, right? I never would have influenced his worldview, right? Or his business worldview. And I never would have had the opportunity to know that I had made a positive impact on his life, that by doing something that I was proud of, by sharing something that I was proud of, by doing something that I believe in, I was able to have a positive impact on this person's life. And I never would have known that if I had not put it out in the world. So I cannot emphasize enough that you should do it with humility and you should do it with gratitude. But for crying out loud, get out there and talk about the things you're proud about. Share your accomplishments with the world. And then don't be surprised when the world responds with congratulations and encouragement. And that's all I got for this week. Thanks so much for everybody listening. Really appreciate you guys. Love you guys. You guys are the reason why we do this. It's the reason why Dom and I are not the smartest guys in the room. It's because you guys are. You're here with us every week, every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Don't forget to go to Creative Con, right? creativecon.com, right? Go to the metropolisarts.com website. The link is in the clubhouse room right now. But if you follow any of us, either myself at Talex Media LLC or Dom at Motivation Champs on any social media, you'll be able to find us. Follow Media Casters on social media. You'll be able to find us. Go buy your tickets for Creative Con. They're going fast, and we can't wait to see you guys there. And that's it, right? So go buy those tickets. And then also look, if you feel so moved, please also check out Legendeering, and please share it with people and say the word, right? The more we get people to say it, the farther we are and the closer we are to making the world of business a better place for all of us. And that's really the goal. So thank you all for being here. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. And we will see you next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Right here at Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Until then, everybody have a great rest of your week. Love you. Bye-bye.